In this video, we're going to go ahead and download and install IntelliJ IDEA, which is the editor/IDE that we're going to be using in this course. And we're going to be doing it for a Linux platform, specifically Ubuntu Linux 16.04. Now, if you're running Windows or a Mac, you'd want to check out the other videos or the videos that we've set up for both operating systems in this section of the course, and that's because the process of installation is slightly different. But if you run Linux, this is the correct video. So the first thing to do is open up Firefox or your browser of choice. We want to go to the JetBrains website, jetbrains.com. And once we get there, we need to go to the page where we can download IntelliJ. Alright, and usually you'll see that option here on the screen because it's one of their most popular products. JetBrains is the company that have created this product. So you can either select it there, or if you don't see that for some reason, come up here onto IDEs, and IntelliJ will usually be the first option or very close to the first option. So go to that page, then click on download. And what I'm going to do is start the download for the Community Edition. And while that's downloading, we'll come back to this page and just talk about the Ultimate and Community Editions and what differences there are between the two. Alright, what I'm going to do first is save that though, and it'll go into my downloads folder. Now I'll just go back here, as I mentioned, just so we can have a bit of a look at the two options. So we've got the Ultimate Edition as well as the Community Edition. Now the Community Edition, which I'm downloading, is the free and open source version, and you'll never have to pay with that option. So if you want to go ahead and use that option, it's a good option and it will certainly work well in this course. The Ultimate Edition does come with a trial. However, if after that trial period, if you still want to use it, you'll need to pay for it. And the difference between the two is that the Ultimate Edition has extra features. It's really good for other things other than standard languages. So it's good for Java Enterprise Edition. And you can see here other frameworks and databases and so on and so forth. So what you can do is if you decide to try out the Ultimate Edition, you can try that out for 30 days. The JetBrains people give you a 30-day trial to try that out. And you could always come back and download the Community Edition later. And the other thing to keep in mind is that I can increase that trial period by another 90 days, giving you 120 days by giving you a coupon that will enable that extend that period of time. Now, if you want to take advantage of that and try out the Ultimate Edition for the full 120 days, details of that are in a lecture in this section of the course. But again, either version will work. And if you want to try out the Ultimate Edition, you can. But in my case, you saw me download the Community Edition. All right, so let's go ahead now and install the version that we've downloaded. And over here, I can see now that my version's finished. So I'm going to just open that and go into the folder where it was actually downloaded. Well, actually, what I'll do is I'll just come down here and close this browser down. And we can see that it's in the downloads folder. And I'm just going to put this software in a folder on my computer. So I'm going to first open it with Archive Manager. And then what I'm going to do is come back to my home folder and I'm going to create a folder for my apps. So I'm going to click on New Folder and I'm going to call that Dev. And this is going to be the folder where I'm going to put IntelliJ. Now you are of course free to put this software wherever you like, but that's the location where I'm going to be running it from. Once you've done that, you've selected the folder where you want it to go. You can come back over here and then you can literally just click on that and drag it over, and that will move the files into that location for us. Then once that's finished, we can close down both of these windows. And we now want to go into Terminal. So I'm going to click on Terminal. So you go into Terminal or Command Prompt, whatever it's called on your installation of Linux. Then we want to navigate now to that folder. So I'm going to go to CD, in my case, have a look at the current folder. I'm in my home folder. I'm going to click on CD Dev. And if we have a look there by typing ls, you can see that there's the installation of IDEA. So I'm just going to type in CD space and then the folder name. And then I can go into the bin folder, so CD space bin. And have a look at that again, and you can see that there's various files there. The one we want to start is idea.sh. So I'm going to type /idea to start it. And the first time you load, you actually start IntelliJ IDEA, it gives you a prompt to import settings. So if you've got an existing version of IntelliJ, you can import the settings, and particularly if you've customized it and changed, maybe perhaps played around with fonts and other things, it can be a good way to stop you having to reset everything up again from scratch. In my case though, I haven't got any settings to import, so I'm going to select this option, and that's probably the option you'll choose in most cases because you probably haven't had IntelliJ installed on your computer before. So click on OK. And we need to accept the privacy policy by clicking on accept. Now you've got some options as to how you want the theme or what the theme is for IntelliJ. And you can see if I select it, we can see different options. I'm going to choose IntelliJ, the standard option with the white background, but you'll choose whichever one you feel is appropriate. And keep in mind, you can always come down here to go back to settings within IntelliJ, appearance and behavior appearance, and change that at a later time if you feel you need to. Once you've done that, click on next. Now we want it to automatically create a desktop entry for us so that we don't have to go to terminal or to a command prompt to start IntelliJ each time. So I'm going to leave that ticked and get it to do that. And again, in settings later on, you can come back to tools, create desktop entry if you want to do that in the future and you don't want to do it now for some reason. So I'm going to leave that option selected. I'm not going to create it for all users. If you wanted to for some reason, you can click on that checkbox, click on next. Now you can use IntelliJ from the command line if you want. You can invoke it, and that's an option if you want to. I'm going to click on that even though we probably won't be doing that in the course. It's actually there for you just to do if you want. Click on next. Now we've got a number of plugins that you can configure, and some of these are actually configured already, so you can enable them or disable them or customize them. I'd suggest generally you leave everything as is because you can always go back in again later and configure or add plugins at any time. So I'm going to leave everything as it is there. Just one other thing to keep in mind is if you're running the Ultimate Edition and not the Community Edition that I'm installing, you probably will have extra options there because of the extra functionality that the Ultimate Edition of IntelliJ gives you. But in my case, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to click on Next. And we've got some other options to download some featured plugins. We're not going to be using those plugins in this course either. So I'm just going to click on Start Using IntelliJ IDEA. I need to enter my password now. And that's to set up the launcher, the installer. Click on Authenticate, and IntelliJ should now start. As you can see, it's starting. Okay, so now we've installed IntelliJ. There's a few settings we need to configure. So to do that, we're going to come over here and click on Configure. Come down here to Project Defaults, then select Project Structure. And what we need to do is configure a project SDK. If I click on that at the moment, you can see clearly there's no SDK defined. So what we need to do now is associate the Java development kit that we installed in a previous video with IntelliJ. So to do that, we're going to click on New. We can come over here and select JDK. Now what should happen is that IntelliJ will find the Java development kit for us automatically. And you can see in this particular case it did. If for some reason it doesn't find that for you automatically, you may need to go ahead and manually choose the location and choose the home directory. But in my case, again, you can see that that's found it okay. So I don't need to do anything else now other than clicking on OK. And you can see once I've done that, this is now changed. And we've got the Java version showing now. And if by some reason it still wasn't selected, make sure that you have got that selected up there. The other thing here that we want to have selected is the SDK default. That is selected to the latest, or it is choosing the latest version, which is correct. So we don't need to make any changes to that. And incidentally, I didn't mention earlier, but if by chance you got to this screen and you couldn't see the option that I could see, Project is the option that you'd select to see those on the screen. All right, so I'm going to click on OK now. And there's a few other little minor options we now need to configure. So let's go ahead and do those. Click on Configure and click on Settings. And what we want to do is open up here down under Editor, expand that list of options, and then under General do the same thing. Click on that. Firstly, we want to click on Auto Import. We want to click on or add the checkbox. Click the checkbox for Add Unambiguous Imports on the Fly, and then the checkbox we should click for Optimize Imports on the Fly. So click on Apply to that, and then come down here to Appearance, and we want to make sure that Show Line Numbers is checked. And you can see that by default it is checked, but if for some reason it's not, make sure you do check it there. But you can see in my case it is. I'm going to click on OK. And at that point, we've now finished the configuration for IntelliJ IDEA. What I am going to do now is close this down, And I'm going to close down the command line, the terminal. And we should be able to now come over here. And if we have a look for IntelliJ, you can see that IntelliJ is now appearing there as a desktop shortcut. So I can click on that, and that's how I can go ahead and install, or run rather, IntelliJ IDEA in the future. And you can see that it started fine. Alright, so that's it. That's the installation and configuration of IntelliJ IDEA. Let's now move on to the next video.